Hi guys, welcome to the Python class. Okay, so I'm seeing a few people who are just with us at the Scratch session. So welcome to our Python programming class. Who loves Python? I mean, who doesn't love Python? If you love Python, please just say so in the comment section. It's such an awesome programming language, simplified. There's so many things you can do with it. And this is our second cohort. We did have Python classes in our first cohort of the lifelong learning program. But this time around, it's going to be, I can't even stress this enough. It is going to be amazing. You guys are going to have so much fun. And our instructor for today, it's her first time handling a Code Arena session. Her name is Sarah. I actually just met her a few minutes ago, and she is so kind. She is so nice, and I'm so sure you're going to enjoy your time with her. Please make her feel welcome. When she comes on, if you have like virtual emojis, virtual clapping emojis, just put them in the comment section. She deserves it. She's amazing. So she's going to be taking you through this first Python class. And just before I hand over to you, Sarah, guys, hit the subscribe button, okay? Just subscribe to Code Arena's YouTube channel. You don't want to miss any of the updates that Code Arena has in store for you. Okay, guys, over to you, Sarah. Have fun with your Python class.
All right. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
All right.
I just want to make sure that my mic is working and everything before we get started. All right, just if you could let me know, let's see. All right, so awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And so 1 second, let's get this going. All right, and so can you see this? Can you see, oh wait, sorry. Let's try this again. Okay, so here is our presentation. Thank you for coming today. This is our first lesson of 6 in Python with the Code Arena Lifelong Learning. And I'm really excited to be teaching you guys today. This is a little bit of our agenda. We're going to start with kind of a little introduction. So I'll tell you just a little bit about me, my experience with Python and other coding languages. Then we'll jump right into what is Python, why you should learn it. And then we're going to get right into the basics. So the stepping stones that we have to kind of learn about. And then we're going to start coding. So we have a challenge at the end today that we're going to be working on that will go over everything that we will have learned. And so I guess we'll jump right into it. So a little bit about me is my name is Sarah Brayback. I'm a freshman at Purdue University, where I'll be studying data science and have a concentration on environmental science. I've been coding for the past 5 years, and this has allowed me to explore languages like Python, HTML, Julia, R, and Java. I've worked with Girls Who Code, University of Michigan, and I had an internship at Ford Motor Company last year. So I have a little bit of experience with data science specifically and machine learning. And so today we're going to be working on analysis and that in that kind of use of Python. I also love animals and I love to draw. So that's just a little bit about me. And so our course is going to go over learning the basics of Python. And then in future lessons, we're going to start working on mathematical operators, conditionals, packages, and visualizing results of like analysis. And we are also going to be ending with a project. I'll talk a little more about the project at the end, but it will kind of consist of our last 1 or 2 classes where we'll focus on that and completing this personal challenge. All these classes will be kind of roughly 1-hour lectures. And our goal in this is to learn about a subject and then follow up with a hands-on activity. So we're going to have you doing a lot of hands-on coding throughout this process, which will help you understand the concepts that we're working on. And then we're also going to do check-ins, which I'll kind of go over what that is in a little bit. So the project I was talking about is going to be using an Olympics data set. So the goal of this course is to kind of dive into data science and analytics. So we're going to be looking at the different types of sports over the years in the Olympics, how they change, how many were added, and kind of then visualize those results. So we'll be making plots and graphs, and it's going to be really fun. And there'll be a lot of opportunity for you to try things on your own and make it very personable. So that's our end goal of this project. It's very exciting. I love doing this project. And so I'm really excited to let you know that's kind of where we'll be ending with. So the check-in scale, and we'll kind of go over this as we practice today and have a couple practice check-in moments, but it's pretty much this traffic light symbol that you'll see on pages where I want us to check in. When we're working on Python, it can sometimes take moments for you to either review or to better understand it. And so in the case that you need me to go over something or just pause and take a moment to help you make sure that you're understanding fully, you can type in a 0 or a 1 when you're feeling somewhat comfortable and still want to move on, but you're not totally sure, or a 2 if you're 100% ready to go forward. So this check-in scale will appear after we've just accomplished a subject that I really want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Our goal of this lesson is to make sure that everyone feels completely excited and empowered in learning Python. And so we don't want anyone to be left behind. It's totally okay to choose a 0 if you don't feel comfortable with what's going on yet, because at all times there will be someone who feels that way. And I felt that way myself before. And so it's always helpful to make sure that you understand, because Python's something that is constantly being built on. So we want to make sure that all the concepts are something you feel comfortable with. So we're actually going to practice. And if you're ready to move on right now, you can go ahead and type in a 2. If you're not totally sure if you're ready to move on, you can go ahead and type in a 1. And if you want me to pause and go over the check-in scale or what the project is or the overview, you can go ahead and give me a 0. And so I just want to make sure this works and that, we're feeling good to move on to the next subject. All right, I'm getting some 2s, which is always good. All right, so now that we have a couple more 2s, we're going to go ahead and move on. And so I'm just going to quickly say that coding is like a puzzle. We're going to be working on putting these pieces together and learning together to create the biggest picture that we can, which is coding. It's very artistic. And so it's kind of the visualization of a giant project or board. And you're going to slowly be building on that with the different pieces that we'll go over today. So it's kind of the building blocks that we're going to focus on, and then we'll kind of move on from there, maybe in future lessons. So these are just 2 quotes that I wanted to share with you. And the first one is from a famous programmer called Chris Pine. And he said, programming isn't about what you know, it's about what you can figure out. So this is kind of going to be important, and an overall theme for our lessons in this course is that we're going to work on figuring things out together and the problem solving side of everything. So there'll be opportunities where I might challenge you to try something on your own, and then I'll be able to guide you through that activity afterwards. But so there's going to be a lot of opportunities for that type of hands-on learning experience. And the other quote I have is, the only way to learn a new programming language is by writing programs in it. And this goes hand in hand with the last one, is that we're going to be doing a lot of programming together. So I will be talking and going over words and different meanings of vocabulary. But then after that, we're going to dive in and practice those words and use them in real world examples. So we're going to go right into what is Python. And I'm sure some of you might have experience in Python before. So if you want to go ahead and say, oh, Python is X to me, or blink, you can go ahead and do that in the chat as I talk, and I can read them out too. And so that we can kind of have a discussion about what you guys think Python is. So some of the reasons or things that Python is it's first an object-oriented language. This means that it's based on the concept of objects and the methods used on those objects versus procedures and functionality. So you can think of it as like taking building blocks and playing with them versus maybe reading a book. So we're going to be using blocks, which are objects, and manipulating them, building on them. And in a simple way, it just means Python's easier to learn because it's more logic-based. The second thing about what is Python is it was actually created in 1991. So Mario van Rossum, who was a computer programmer, created Python and at the time it was considered a groundbreaking language. And it is still that right now too, especially because Python has a lot of versatile uses. It is an interpretive and high-level programming language, which means that the computer doesn't have to translate what you type in your code into another language to understand it. This makes you able to do a lot more higher-level programming and a lot more advanced work with less time constraint. So again, because of these reasons, it is one of the most popular programming languages in the world. And so it's actually used by a lot of companies because of that. And so we're going to pause, and I want to see, what companies do you think use Python? If it's the number one language, it's groundbreaking. I can promise you it's used by a lot of companies that you may even use on a daily basis. So if you have any ideas, yep. And so I can go ahead and read these out if you guys want to type out what companies you think use Python. And some of the submissions we have for what is Python is that it's an interpreted, high-level, and general-purpose programming language, which is all correct. We also have someone saying that it is a popular and object-oriented programming language, also correct, and that it's for coding and programming things. So those are all correct, and those are all reasons why what Python is. So some of the companies I'm seeing in the chat are Microsoft, Google, Amazon. Those are all actually correct. Yeah, those are Gameloft. I'm not sure about that one, but honestly, it probably does. So we have a lot of people who are submitting bigger companies, and you're all correct. And so here's a list of a couple that I know of that are sort of more popular that do use Python too. So we have NASA, which is sending spaceships into the space, Instagram, Facebook, PayPal, IBM, Netflix, Spotify, Reddit, and Uber. You do also have Google, you have Amazon's in there too, I know. So there's a lot of different options for learning Python in terms of applications. We're using it for everything from sending rockets into space to sending money to another person through PayPal. So yeah, Microsoft also, I believe, uses it too. So that's just a couple of the companies that use it, because these are why they use it. Quora does too, by the way. So data analysis and web development are the most common uses for Python. These results came from a survey of over 1,000 computer programmers for some of the companies I mentioned above. And we see that over 50% use it for data analysis, about 49% use it for web development. Then we also see it being used for system administration, web parsing, machine learning, and software testing. Now, web parsing, just so you understand what that means, is the process of going to a website, let's say a Google website, and pulling the information that appears on that web page. So it's also called scraping based on that. So that's just one of the resources. And so through this course, we're going to be working on data analysis, so the process of doing analytics, which again is one of the most popular uses for it. It's very versatile and it's really fun. So now we're going to get a little bit into why should you learn Python. Now, everyone has their own reason for starting learning Python. My first exposure to it was through a program called Girls Who Code, which I ended up working later on with in the future. And my experience there was so phenomenal that I became really interested in learning other languages and applying it to projects. So Python, again, is just something that once you learn it, you're going to end up using it in some way, whether it's for fun, for another project, or to learn another language. But there are some reasons why you should maybe watch this. Oh, do schools make use of Python? So yes, schools do make use of Python. They can use it on both sides. So they actually will teach you Python. I'm actually learning Python next semester at my school. And then also schools can use it for administration purposes, building websites even. So yeah, schools do use Python. But so some of the 3 opportunities why you might want to learn Python is, the first is career. Obviously, I'm going into a career with computer science, so you might say I'm a little biased, but it is a great opportunity. You can work both remote and in person. There are over 250,000 computer science openings right now for jobs, and there's a great opportunity for work-life balance. So you can, go on vacation for a long time and not work, and then come back and have a job. So another reason people use Python is personal growth. So there's a lot of problem solving involved and a lot of communication that you need in order to code effectively. So this is a really helpful way to almost build both the left and right side of your brain, and even leadership roles and just tactical learning. And even if you're not here to learn Python because you want to learn Python specifically, it's a great language to then go and learn things like Java or even C++. So if you learn Python, it's much easier to learn any other language out there. Let's see, 1 second. Are there like tests on Python? So there are tests on Python. There are things like Coursera and other exams that you can take in order to receive either certification or just for fun. And so you often will use Python in a lot of courses, included things like finance, engineering, even art sometimes uses Python, and robotics for sure, because that's sometimes how you'll code robots. So it's a great language for all these different uses. And then another reason why you might want to learn it is creativity. So it allows for freedom of expression. You're in the process of building something. And because of those reasons, it's very artistic. Programming and coding in general is often seen as a left-sided brain kind of skill to learn. But I feel it's often just as much the right side of the brain because it requires you to think outside of the box, to get creative and even adventurous. So actually, there's a very famous computer programmer called Andrew Hunt who once wrote, in some ways, programming is like painting. You start with a blank canvas and certain basic raw materials. You use a combination of science, art, and craft to determine what to do with them. So this is really important for a lot of people because one of the reasons you'll end up loving coding and staying with it for years even is because of this. It's very customizable,
Hello,
personable.
Charity.
And there's a funny kind of quote
Morning.
that is often said where they actually will code. Like if you look at the code of a language, you'll actually be able to tell who wrote what part because it becomes like your personality and it looks like you. Let's see, I was just looking through the questions. You do use it for robotics. You use it for game development too. And yeah, they do improve our brain's power to be creative because you are thinking outside the box and it's very much like creating or building something. So you guys are all right, and it's awesome to see you guys communicating and having a discussion because it's really nice to be able to bounce ideas off of each other. So as you can see, we have a little traffic sign in the right-hand corner, but I also want to take a moment and ask you, why do you personally want to learn Python? If you're here just because it's the last class of the day and you just wanted to come attend and see what it's all about, that's perfectly fine. But if you have a specific reason, is I want to learn Python because I want to build my own website, that's just as valid. So if you guys want to go ahead and type in why you want to learn it, then go ahead. I'd love to hear your reasons. I know mine was just because I had to do it for homework and I was very interested in just getting involved in something new in my community. So is programming on games different from the way companies program? It is different, but it uses a lot of the same methods. So game development does involve Python, but it also involves things like Java usually, because it's a little more graphically oriented versus like, let's say, analysis or web development. It does apply to engineering. And yeah, Python can be a profession. It often comes under the name of computer scientist or computer programmer. And then you might focus on a specific language. Python's often used for web development, so you might be a web developer or a data analyst. Okay, so let's see. You want to build and code a robot. That's a great reason to learn Python, actually. Let's see. Oh, you want to be creative. That's why you want to learn Python. That's a great reason too. And you want to build a website and AI. AI is really fun. That's ultimately the path that I've chosen to kind of study. But building a website is also amazing. And you want to get more qualifications. That's awesome. Programming games and websites. You want to make apps that can help many people in the world. That's a wonderful reason too. Oh, and it's attached to your course. That's how I got into it. And so I truly believe that's a good reason to start. One person said up here, I love to learn Python, but I get confused really easily. And one of my teachers says that it's confusing. So Python can be a little difficult at times, but hopefully in this class, it won't be. We're going to work to try to make sure that it's understandable and fluid and very logical for while we're working through it. You can use Python to create an app. Okay. I've just seen a lot of answers. That's amazing. So you all have wonderful reasons to be here today. And I loved hearing about them because it shows that you guys are very involved and invested in this. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to do some really cool stuff together. And as you can see, we have a little traffic light. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick check-in. So if you're kind of wanting me to go over anything that I've covered so far, and you're not truly sure if you understand, go ahead and type a 0. If you think you understand, not totally there yet, but you still want to move forward, go ahead and give me a 1. And if you think you got it completely, you're ready to move on, everything makes sense, and you're having fun, go ahead and give me a 2. All right, we already got 1, 2. That's awesome. More 2s. That's great. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this so far. All right. So now that we've got a couple, we're going to go ahead and move on to getting started. So through this process, I'm just going to talk you a little bit through it first. We're going to be downloading a program called Anaconda, which will allow us to use something called Jupyter Notebook. Now, I'm going to start by showing you how to go through it on my computer, and then I'm going to go ahead and open a page with the instructions of how to do it. So first, you can just watch me go through it on my computer, and then I will allow you guys to have a little window that you can go to and you can download it on your own. So we're going to go ahead and start with that. And so it's about Jupyter Notebook, and I'm going to switch my screen to here. So you don't have to follow along yet because I will have it available for you to look at in a second. You'll want to go to anaconda.com. And when anaconda.com loads, you're going to see that it's this data science technology. You want to hover over products, which is on the top right-hand corner, and you want to click on individual edition. Now, Anaconda is a very popular data science tool, actually one of the most used in the world. It will allow us to access things like Jupyter Notebook that will make coding more versatile and easy to understand in the beginning. Why are they named after snakes? Actually, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I'll take a little moment to tell you that the reason Python is called Python is because the guy who created it in 1991, his name was Mario van Rossum, right? And while he was creating this language, he also was reading the scripts of a very popular British satirical show called Monty Python. And it's a very famous show there. It's very funny. And so he was reading the scripts of the show, and he was so inspired and touched by these texts that he decided to name his programming tool after them. So Python is named after Monty Python, which is a show in Britain. So that's just a little fun fact. Anaconda, I'm guessing, came off of the idea of Python. But so for those of you who are asking what those names are, that's what they mean. So now that we're back at the individual edition website, I'm going to go down and hover over download. Yeah, I'm going to be now on this page where I have Anaconda installers for all these different languages, for all these different computers. So now for whatever computer you'll have, you choose your option. I'm on a Mac OS, but for each Windows, Mac OS, or Linux, you want to choose the first option and then download it onto your computer. So in my case, I'm just going to wait, it'd download, and I'd open it, and then I would just go through all the little windows to install it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you back to this page. This has all the instructions of what I just did in order to download. So if you want to go ahead and download this, please let me know. If you already have it downloaded, that's great. But so these are the steps that you'll take. So you're going to start by visiting Anaconda, and then you're going to go ahead and hover over products and click individual edition. Now from individual edition, you're going to click the download and select the graphical downloader for your computer type. And then you're going to follow the prompts in the window and open it. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here and wait until everyone has given me a 2 and that I know that they were able to get it downloaded. What system is best for programming? Both Macs and Microsoft are really good. I personally prefer Apple, but you'll get a personalized experience through whatever you use. So some people prefer HP or Microsoft because it is a little more technically advanced. So whatever works for you, that's great. But so yeah, just follow these steps on the page for Anaconda Notebook, or well, Anaconda, which will allow us to get Jupyter's Notebook. And then Jupyter's Notebook is something that we will work on. I'll help you understand what that is in a minute, but we just want to make sure everyone gets Anaconda downloaded. Yes, you can use Python on an iPad. You can use Python IDLE, but in this course, just to make it a little more simpler to understand, I'm going to be having us code through Jupyter Notebook if you'd like. If you already have Python IDLE or you're already coding in a different type of window, you're more than welcome to continue using that. But Jupyter Notebook's one of the better ones to start off with. So I'm going to go ahead and just use that for now so that those of us who are just starting out will be able to understand a little better. Yeah, so someone just said they prefer Microsoft for the program speed. That's a great reason too. So Python 3 is what will be downloaded with this. So once you get Anaconda Notebook open, you'll be able to see where you can program in Python. So we see that some people already got it downloaded. If you already have Python 3 and you're coding in that, you can just continue in that too. Jupyter Notebook is a nice tool for data analysis. So if you just want to download it for fun too, but you already have Python 3, that's good too. So now is just the time for anyone who wants to download Jupyter Notebook or doesn't have any type of coding program available to go ahead and download this. Yeah, you can use Sublime if you'd like. So again, it doesn't really matter too much where you're doing it, but in this case, Jupyter Notebook's just one of the easier ways to get started. So if you're already started coding, you're already downloaded things, that's okay too. We're willing to work with that too, and you'll be able to do it. So Jupyter Notebook's something that will come with Anaconda that I'll open up and show you. It's a coding workspace that we will be kind of focusing on in this lesson. All right, some people's is still downloading, that's okay. All right, once we get a couple more, I'm gonna go ahead and move on then. Awesome, it's good to hear that some people are downloading it. But yeah, Jupyter Notebook is a very helpful tool once you do get it downloaded, because it's just very easy to see your responses in the terminal and output, input, which we'll get into in a little bit. There's no need to worry. All right, some people are still downloading. Again, that's great. We have our little traffic signals, and we're not going to leave anyone behind on this. Your Python stopped working and you can't download it again. Are you trying to download Jupyter Notebook, or are you just trying to download Python 3? Yeah, no worries, we're waiting. And you can't download. May I ask why you can't download, Anthony? I was just wondering, because I'll try to see if we can work through these while we wait for a couple others to load. So Jupyter Notebook's just a way to code in Python that's a little bit easier and simpler to understand and faster when it comes to working. So it's just one of the ways that you can code through Python. Some people prefer to just use a terminal, or they'll use things like Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Notebook is very popular for businesses and companies to use because it's so easy to work. So we'll get into like how it looks and that type of stuff as soon as everyone gets Anaconda downloaded. Yeah, if you have Python 3.8, that's great. We can also use that too. So, but we do have a couple people, so we're just gonna wait a couple more minutes. What if there's an error in your download of the Jupyter Notebook? I mean the Anaconda. Because let's see, if the error is in your Python 3, we can talk about that maybe in a couple of minutes, or Anaconda, which is how you access Jupyter Notebook. All right, it looks like we're getting a lot of 2s. And a lot of Python 3s. That's great. Again, if you already have it, that's perfectly fine too. Python's built that no matter where you code it in, it's always going to look the same and give you the same response. So Jupyter Notebook is what I'll have people who don't have anything downloaded use. But if you don't have Jupyter Notebook, that's okay. All right. Is anyone else still waiting for it to download? Because I might just start showing you the Jupyter Notebook, even if it is still downloading, and you can also watch my screen then and see how it works so that we can get into that a little bit so we can start coding today. All right, so your Python 3.8 wasn't working, so you're downloading Jupyter Notebook. Awesome. No worries, we can wait 2 minutes too. So we'll give it a couple more minutes. And then after, let's give it about, 2-3 minutes. And then even if yours is still downloading, that's okay. I'll just take you through what it looks like so that we can then get into vocab. But no worries. It is this is, I promise you, the most waiting we'll be doing for these 6 courses. This is just getting it downloaded. And once it's downloaded, everything's instant. So I promise you, we won't have to do anything like this again. Yeah, again, if you have Python 3.8, that's great too. So who here has coded in Python before? Okay, so you've already coded in there. That's great. It's a cool language, and even if you have learned it, some of this stuff might be a little more just review today. All right, so we're going to give it 1 more minute, and then I'm going to go ahead and open up the Anaconda so that we can start looking at how to use Jupyter Notebook. Okay, 5 minutes. I think we can give it a couple more, and then we'll see, because I want to make sure. I just saw that. So you learned it in your former Python class. That's really cool. Again, there are a lot of different ways to learn Python and a lot of different uses for it. So Python is not C++. C++ is a different type of language. It's like C and C#. So that's like a whole different class of languages. Then you have Java and JavaScript, which are put together in their own little bubble. And then you have like Python, that it's its own entity, and it's just kind of exists. It's very unique in comparison to both Java and C++. So they are not the same. Oh, your Python 3.8 stopped working? So you've not used it in a month. I'm sorry to hear about that. All right, so I just want to see if everyone can we do like a little quick check to see who's still waiting for theirs to open? So yeah, if you can just let me know if you're still waiting, that'd be great so we can kind of see how many. So like I said earlier, you can use Python 3.8, like how the interface works with it, and it will make more sense when I show it to you. So for those of you who wanted Anaconda downloaded right now, we're going to wait, and then we'll go through and show you what Jupyter Notebook looks like. So it's just a simpler way to look at the design and how it works. And it's a little more logically based, so everything kind of makes sense and it's easier to understand, which helps when you're first starting out. All right, so we're seeing that people are pretty good, but they'd like me to still move on, but they aren't totally sure yet. Or 1 more minute. Okay, we can wait 1 more minute. We're gonna open it in a second. So again, we just want to see. I'm gonna wait till one more minute. No worries. Again, I wanted to do this in the class, so if there were any issues, we'd be able to work on this together. So it's totally okay, and I accounted for this time in my class so that hopefully we'll be able to work on it together and move on forward together. If you don't have Python Anaconda downloaded and now you're thinking you might want it at the end of this class, you can always come back and revisit this and we'll be able to help. Okay, so I can give a couple more minutes. So why don't we do that then? I didn't realize there's still so many people who are waiting. So no worries. Would you guys like to move on to vocabulary right now then while it's downloading for you guys, or would you prefer we stop here and wait? Because we can start talking about some of the words. I'm here to kind of be flexible. So we can start looking at some of the words in vocabulary Python, or we can just stop. So we're not going to open Anaconda just yet, but when you do, you'll just click on the application. No worries, we can give you 3 more minutes. It works perfectly fine. So some of you have coded before. Does anyone here know any other languages? And no worries, we can give more minutes. All right, yeah, we might go to vocabulary in a couple minutes and just work on that while it still downloads. All right, so I'm just gonna go to vocabulary right now. We'll go back over it again because I want to make sure that we can work on it, but this is just while it downloads. Oh, and someone knows HTML, that's great, that's a fun language. So we're just gonna skip all this if my thing loads. Ignore this. All right, so we're gonna start on vocabulary while everyone still is downloading. That way we're able to kind of focus and still move on forward. Files. These are both places where your coding is housed. Text files is where you're going to write your code, and then terminals is where we're gonna open it and run it. You also have things called workspaces, which is what Jupyter Notebook is. A notebook is a type of workspace. And so we're going to move forward with that and using notebooks and workspaces, which saves our code as text files. So it's like the house. Just think of it as terminals, text files, workspaces, and that's where your code is stored and lives. So now we have something called syntax. So in any language, you have grammar rules, right? You might need periods at the end of sentences, commas, you have nouns, verbs, adjectives. And so in that case, that's called syntax in Python. We have the same type of rules, though they're different, as a regular language would have with grammar. So in this case, you might need parentheses always surrounding something. And so we'll get into a little bit of different of the syntax, but it's pretty much the form of the coding. And whenever you'll get an error, sometimes it says invalid syntax, and that means that there was something that wasn't put in the right format of the language, so the computer can't understand it. So that's syntax. Now we have data values and data types. So there are 2 types of values that exist in Python. And this will make a little more sense once our computers are open and coding. But so you'll have things called strings and integers. These are the building blocks of any language. Integers are any type of number, and strings can be anything. It's like a password. It's pretty much a unlimited amount of characters that's always surrounded with these little quotations. And whatever is your string is put in here. Now, those 2 are the basics of Python. You're going to take strings and integers and you're going to do things to them. Maybe it's math, maybe it's conditionals, maybe you're going to compile them together. But so that's kind of what Python is all based on, is data values, known as strings and integers. So now we have variables. And again, once we're able to code and is assigned to a data value. So for instance, you can write x equals 25 or x equals chicken. And anytime you call X in the environment, it's going to print whatever you assigned it to it. So I'm actually going to type this in the chat, but the format of a Python variable follows as such. So like X equals 5 or X equals chicken. So out of those two little comments that I put in the chat, which one is a string? Can you tell me which X value is the string? So is 5 the string or chicken the string? You're right. Chicken is the string. That is the one that is categorized as a string. And 5 is the integer. And the X is the variable. And we'll get a little more into that again. I'll go over this once we have it open and we can code all these things together. But yes, X equals chicken. That is true. Is a line or line. Oh, in this case, a function is something that just does another thing. So for instance, it might be, sorry, I'm plugging in my computer. It might be a print function that displays whatever you put inside of it. Or we might put, list something or display something. And they're all different things that you do to values or variables in Python. So the integer is 5. It's a number. So, and then chicken is, yes, the string chicken and 5 to it. So now we have lists, and lists exist. Variables, values can be like, let me see. It's like a variable with and remember, whenever you make a string, you need to have quotations around it. So I just sent what is a list. And so this is like a list that if you ever called, can anyone hear me? I just want to make sure now. So lists exist in your environment as a different amount, right? 1 second. 1 second. All right, can you hear me now? You can't hear me quite well. Okay, 1 second. Give me a moment. Can you hear me now? So it sounds like we have a little bit of mixed reviews. But so then you create your list, which is variables. that have what you can combine to them, clearing them, copying, and counting. So these are the different things that you can do so when you don't use quotation marks around a string, I'm just going to quickly address that. It's invalid syntax. It just won't work. It won't run. So that's just something to note. And so, but what we can do is, I don't know if you can still hear me now. Okay. All right, but so you have these list methods that can be used on lists. So whenever you want to do something to a list, you put list name dot append, and then you follow by what you want to add to the list. So in this case, our list is X, right? X dot append followed by this, and we might add to this list apple. All right, so that's the end of our vocabulary. And we'll go over a little bit more in a second. But so I want to see, is anyone still having trouble downloading their Jupyter notebook? If you could give me a 0 or a 1 or a 2, I'd love to see who has it downloaded. All right, who has it downloaded? Do we have a 0 and a 1 and a 2? All right, so it looks like we have several, at least 1s or 2s. So I'm going to go ahead and move on with how it looks. And then if you're still having trouble, we can focus on that. So I'm going to go to I'm going to open my Anaconda. If it loads.
Hi guys. Okay, so I think we lost Sarah for a bit, but she should be back soon. Yeah, she's having connection issues, so we can give her a few minutes and then she'll be back. Hope you guys have been enjoying the sessions. I can see you're being engaged. You've been talking about lists, you've been talking about different things in Python, introduction to Python concepts, but Sarah will be back very soon, okay guys? Okay, who can tell me one new thing you've learned since today's class in the comment section? Just one thing. One new thing. Maybe it's how to download Python. Maybe it's the different career paths you can pursue with Python. Yeah, I see. I'm so excited. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it is awesome. Okay, Dami Adibala said he's learned what a function is. That is very cool. Cool, guys. A variable, string, yeah, functions. You guys have gone far in just the space of 45 minutes. Wow, awesome. Difference between an integer and a string. Great. So what is the difference? What's the difference between an integer and a string? What Python can be used for? Yeah, I saw you guys talking about data analysis. I saw data analysis. I saw web scraping. I saw web design. I think so. Different things. How do you open it? Difference between yeah. So I mean, I think the basic difference is a string has to. Okay, Sarah's back.
Hi, I am so sorry. I don't know what happened.
It's completely fine. It's completely fine. It
Thank you
happens.
again. Thank you for helping me out with that.
It's cool.
All right.
I mean, your class has already been interesting. I was asking them what they've been learning in the comment section, and they've learned so much in the space of 45 minutes. So,
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear.
Okay, so I'll hand it back over to you, Sarah.
All right. Thank you so much again.
No problem.
All righty. So I don't know where I lost y'all, but we're going to go ahead and we're looking at the Anaconda Navigator, which is how you open it and look at it. So does everyone see my screen? We're going to start with. All right, I hope so. And thank you everyone also for being patient with me. I apologize for that. But do you guys, is this kind of where we left off, is looking at Anaconda Navigator? No, I apologize. Can you tell me where I lost you guys? Because I was talking for a little bit, but I'm not sure if it was actually going through or not now. You can see my screen now? Okay, so this is Anaconda Navigator. You can open it either going to your Launchpad on a MacBook Pro, or well, any Mac device or Apple, or if you have Microsoft, you would go to your File Explorer and you would look for it under Applications or New Downloads. So we had just ended, I believe, with list methods. And so I'm just going to take you through kind of what it looks like now on Anaconda Navigator. Yep. All right. Awesome. So we have all these different options. These are all tools used by professional data scientists in their job. We're going to be focusing on Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Notebook is the second option here, and it's a web-based interactive computing notebook environment. You can edit and run human-readable docs while describing the data analysis. It's really helpful. That's a very fancy way to say it's really good at programming in Python. So I'm going to go ahead and launch my Jupyter Notebook. And as you can see, my terminal appeared. That is what's calling the Jupyter Notebook and working on it. So this is what Jupyter Notebook looks like. We'll start by just showing you that this front area is all the files on my computer. Now, I've had Jupyter Notebook for a while, so as you can see, I've also created documents that are Python notebooks in Jupyter Notebook. So those don't actually exist on my computer yet. But so this is kind of your directory, so to speak, within your workspace. If you ever need to upload a document, it will open to this and you can download something. We also have this, which will allow you to refresh your workspace directory to make sure that all your files are up to date. And then we also have new. Now, new is how you're going to create a document within Jupyter Notebook. So this top right-hand corner, I'm going to click new, and you'll see there's notebook right here. I'm going to click Python 3, and it's going to open me my Jupyter Notebook. Now, this is a really cool environment. The first thing we're going to do is if your Jupyter Notebook's working. If it doesn't, we're just going to still wait for it to download. But if you are getting it to work, if you could get to this page, it'd be really great. So if you can get your Jupyter notebook and opened to a new notebook, go ahead and give me a 2 in the chat. And we'll just do a 2 for that. You're having a problem selecting a destination. Usually whatever's suggested is good as you're downloading. And so if it's making you choose a different place, usually downloads or applications would be great folders to do that in. But if you can get your Jupyter notebook open into a new document, that'd be great. All right, so we already got one person who got there. That's so good so far. Awesome job. Again, I promise you, this is the most waiting you'll have to do this entire time. And I understand it can be a little frustrating, but we're here to work through this together, and I'm hoping we'll be able to overcome this. And I promise you, once this is done, we're all onto the fun stuff. This is the one time you'll be at all waiting. Awesome, you got Python idle open, that's great. So we're getting a lot of 2s. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to utilize a notebook. The first part is you can change the name. So this untitled right here up at the top is the title of your notebook. I'm going to change it here to Code Arena Lesson 1. You can call it whatever you'd like. No judgment here. But so that's just what you can name it. And right next to it, you can see when it was last saved along with any unsaved changes. Now to fix that unsaved changes, you can click Save here and it will save your program. Now, down here, you see this white rectangle. It doesn't have anything in it right now, and it has in written next to it. This is called the input. So in this case, just to make sure that my Anaconda is working and my Jupyter notebook's working, I'm going to type hello world. So you can do the same and follow along. That's great. So this is the print function, which we'll talk a little bit about in a moment. But then you can hit run. This is your input cell, and when I run it, it gives me the output. So whenever you use this function print, it's going to display whatever you put inside of it, in this case, hello world. So you have your run button, your stop button, and your replay. Now your replay is going to rerun everything inside of this code. Your stop button is going to stop everything as it's running. And your run button, is this clearer? Is this easier if I just zoom in? All right, so let's see if this is better. But so you have your run along with these 2 buttons. Now each of these in things with the text is called a cell. So you can move your cells around, copy cells, and then paste them with this button. And then you can also cut them. So the scissors will remove your last action. So if I paste, I can take the scissors and cut it and it's gone. You can use the plus button to also add a cell. So those are just some of the tools that we'll be using. If you go up to File, it allows you to either open a new notebook, open an old one, make copies, save, revert to checkpoints, which you don't really want to ever do, but all these different things that are focused on the actual notebook itself. If you go to Edit, it has all these different functions that you can run onto your cells. So you can cut cells, copy, paste above, paste below. If you are using idle or Python 3, there's no need to worry about any of this. This is just if you're coding in Jupyter Notebook. It's really helpful. Then you have view, insert cells, and that's pretty much all you'll need to work in Python. So just to cover some of the vocabulary we went over today, I'm going to go ahead and go right back through it so that we can work on values and variables too. So the first thing that we learned, if you remember, let me go back up, is terminals and text files. This is your text file. This is your workspace too. The terminal is right here on my computer, which is how it's calling all this, as you can see. If I look at my terminal, let me blow it up. You can see that everything that I've done so far in my Jupyter Notebook is appearing here. So saving a file, remember when we saved it called Code Arena Lesson 1? That happened here too. This is my terminal, which some people prefer to code in. But this looks a much nicer and it's much easier to understand as you're going quickly through code. So that's just a fun little fact. We then have syntax. So we've talked a little bit about the rules of coding and how things work. A great example of invalid syntax would be this. Can you tell me what's wrong with the statement I just typed, this print hello world? Do you have an idea of what could be wrong with that? Based on what we learned about strings is my little, I don't know if you call it a hint, but a little note about it. So if we're trying to print the string hello world, there's something missing from the code I wrote. No quotation marks, you're correct. So as soon as I wrap this in quotation marks, notice how it changes color? Red means it's a string. Now, double quotes are used, but also single quotes can be used too. As long as it's quotations, I prefer double because I think it looks nicer. But this is, again, just one of the things that we talked about with customizable code. So in this case, some people prefer single quotations, others prefer double. But now that we have them, and I print it, it'll tell me hello world. But if I remove them again, we're going to get a syntax error right here. And it says invalid syntax. So that's what syntax is. It guides the form and structure of the code. Data values. I think you guys got this one, but can you tell me what an integer is? Is hello world an integer? No, you're right. It's pretty much a number. So integers are numbers. So hello world would be a string. So hello world is a string. If I instead went here and typed 5, it would print 5 as an integer. Yes, a whole number. Except I should have specified integers can actually be non-whole numbers too now. Though they're called integers in here, they do also hold the capacity to be any type of real number. And you're right, hello world is not an integer, it's a string. So it seems like you guys have got that. That's awesome. So this is variables. Now variables are items that are assigned a value. So I can create x equals 5 and y equals 3. These are both integers assigned to two variables. Now we'll get in a little more into how to actually do this tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow, next week. But so a great example would be x plus y. I'm printing that, which now gives me 8. So you can do this to integers. You cannot do that with strings. And yes, floats too, but integers also can be decimals too. And we'll worry about floats at another time because right now we're just focusing on numbers. Floats only usually have, it's like weird, they have to have zeros at the end and they're a little more complicated to understand. And though integers are normally only counting numbers, in Python they're any number. So you're right. In this case though, we were able to do numerical mathematical operators on x plus y to get 8. So those are variables, and now we have functions. Print is a function, and every function that you ever write is noted by the function name followed by parentheses. So for instance, one of the functions, if you remember, that we learned about lists is append. So if I made a list, my list equals, and should I make it string? Let's do red, yellow, blue, and green. So now if I wanted to append something to this list, to add it to it, I would write my list.append, which adds an element to the end of the list. And I put purple in here. When I run it, I actually need to print. I'll show you the first list version and then the second. This code here shows what happens when they add it. So as you can see, our first list has red, yellow, blue, and green. And our second list has red, yellow, blue, green, and purple. So this is how you use function in regards to an item, or you use the parentheses. So we're going to pause for a moment and see how is everyone understanding. So give me a 0 if you don't understand anything at all, a 1 if you're pretty sure but you would like to continue moving on, and a 2 if you're completely ready. All right, so we're getting 2s, 1s. That's good to hear. A lot of 2s. Yeah, you can do idle, you can make lists, you can do variables and values. So everything I've shown you that I've actually coded exists in idle too, because that's also a Python coding mechanism. But I'm seeing a lot of 2s. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our last thing. So thank you for everyone who stuck around so far and is starting to get it. So this is going to be something I'm going to walk you through, and then we'll do it on our own together. So I'd like you to open up your Jupyter notebook, your idle environment, if you have idle, or ideally, if you have just Python 3, you can open that up too. Then we're going to start a new Python project, and I want you to title it My First List. We're then going to create a list of your favorite things and have you print it. Once you print it, I'm going to have you type it in the chat too, so we can share with each other the list we were able to create. So I'm going to walk you through this first one more time, and then I'll let you guys do this on your own as a great way to end, okay? So I'm going to go to Jupyter and open a new file. I'm going to name it My First List. I'm then going to create a list called My List and put all my favorite things in it. I like books, French fries. I really like puppies and art. So this is my list of favorite things that I've created. And then I'm going to print my list and see what it gives us. So my list gave us books, French fries, puppies, and also art. Now, you guys can do this on your own in a second, but I also want to add in an extra challenge. Once you're able to complete making a list of your favorite things, I want you to make a change to it. So if you use append or clear, or copy even, I want you to practice using a list method too. So in my case, I'm going to do append, which if you remember, add something. And I want to add to my list because let's say I forgot. I really like nature. So I'm going to put nature, and then I'll print it again. So as you can see, it added nature. So this is what I want you to do, if you can, on your own. So I want you to start by creating a list of your favorite things and then printing it. And then, if you'd like to, you can add on an extra function. So if you guys are able to do this, go ahead and then print your list when you're done. It is written as actually my list.append. So you're very close, but you always want to start with the list name and then dot and then append. Did you, so you got yours done. Do you want to print it for us in the chat, like copy it? It's a very fun one. I always like to focus on my favorite things. It's very positive. And it's great to learn what other people's favorite things are because you'd realize you might have more in common than you would have thought. Yes, my list.append. I was actually going to type that. So whenever you're doing anything on your list, like you're manipulating anything, adding any values or changing it, it's going to be, let me fix it, sorry. It's going to be list name dot, oh, sorry. Did not mean to type that right away. List name and then function followed by parentheses. So any type of, if you use clear, copy, so any of these, it will work by list name dot and then followed by these. And that's for lists because you might do these things to a variable, but you don't have to specify both the variable and what you want to add usually. Oh, so you did math, dog, and science? Okay, so math is very fun. And I do love dogs. I know puppies was on my list. I should add my list to the chat too. So let me go back to mine. And I will copy this and I'll add it on. I think I can put it here. Nope, I don't know how to actually, but I'll leave it up here. So mine is books, French fries, puppies, arts, and nature. So it's good to see. So it's my list. I went ahead and typed it in the chat. It's not in the code form because I cannot seem to copy it over. But so if anyone else is able to get their list done, you can go ahead again and share that because that's pretty much all we have left doing. And I'm sorry that you're still having issues with installing it. Again, you can watch the video again if you need help, but I think, is it just not loading or what seems to be your issue? Do you know? It's still not loading for you guys. Is it issues with connectivity, like it's just taking a long time? Is it struggling to add it together, like, you know, find a place to assign where the application needs to go? What programs are you guys using? And Larissa shared her list, their list, and that's awesome. Music, games, movies, family, Dutch, acting. Acting's fun, and math is fun too. That's a lot. Games, books, and science. Books are very good, and so are games. Something about failed to create menu. Have you tried like reinstalling? So deleting your downloading application and trying to just go through the process again. Sometimes if you're having trouble, that's always the best way to start is by, if you've got it downloaded and it's just trying to install now, deleting the downloaded file. And it might work then. Okay, so maybe try that. That will probably help. And you want to do the individual edition. Books and entertainment, those are both great things to love. I apologize that you're having issues. Again, once this is downloaded, there's nothing else that we have to download or install or any issues that we should have in regards to that. Coding, soccer, games, and science. I like that you put coding up there. I can definitely agree. I should have put that on my list too. And math, science, and dogs. I keep saying dogs, which is always a good thing because dogs are wonderful. Graphics, designing, movies, economics. Wow, that's a good one. Math and coding. Awesome. It's so good to see everything that you guys love. Oh, and you added food to yours too. That's awesome. 3D printers are really cool. All right. And so I know there are still some people having trouble downloading, but that's pretty much it that we have today. You guys were able to accomplish a really cool challenge on your own. And for most of us, we started coding today, which is amazing. And I'm really glad that we were able to do this so far. Again, it's really cool to see all the things you guys like and that you were able to do this challenge so far and code on your own. So you can save this if this is your first time ever coding as your first program ever written. So and if anyone has any last minute lists they'd like to share. And maybe if you weren't able to even create it yet. Oh, wow, we have cooking too. That's wonderful. But if anyone was not able to complete this yet and would like to share a list of their favorite things, go ahead and type it in the chat. We'd love to hear what some of your favorite things are, even if you weren't able to get the download to finish yet. There are a lot of games on here, which is nice, and books too. It's great that you guys like to read. So yeah, you can use Python. Python is in Jupyter Notebook, so you are coding in Python through it, but you can use the Python IDLE environment if you already have it downloaded and would prefer to use that. Oh, someone added math to their list too. Math is good. Thank you, everyone, again. It was really fun, and I really enjoyed working with you guys and having discussions and exploring different new activities too. So your list is food, TV, and art. TV and art is great, and so is food. I did have French fries on my list, so I can relate to all three of those. So how do you save in Python? Are you using the IDLE environment? Because usually anytime you want to save any type of file, you just go to File, like the little header bar, and it will have a drop-down menu. Games, sports. Oh, that's fun. Sports are great. Dancing and singing and gadgets. If you are in Jupyter Notebook, just remember you can save again going to this little guy in the right-hand corner. Drawing, eating, that's awesome. Usually Python IDLE can be downloaded just from a website, just like Jupyter Notebook. Dog, TV, Isaac Newton, calculus. Whoa, everyone's got such an amazing just variety of things that they love. And so it was so exciting to hear all these. So I'm just going to take you over a little recap of what we did today so you can realize how much you accomplished in, well, now a little more than 60 minutes, but you learned about the course model, what we're going to be doing, the kind of end goal, which is a really cool project. You were able to review vocabulary and some of the really important stuff about Python. We started to work in Jupyter Notebook or IDLE if you're able to get it downloaded, which it seemed like most people did. And then values, lists, variables. So you were able to figure those all out and actually apply them to code today. And then we finished with an activity where you guys created your own list, which was all amazing. And that's so cool. So Python you want to download. I'm just going to reiterate for those of you who are having a little difficulty that this is what the ones you want to download is the graphical downloader for Python 3.8. So if I go back to Anaconda website and I go to the individual edition and I go down to download, you always want to choose this first one here. And that's what's going to help you run. books, basketball, blueberries, bananas, and body stretching. First of all, those are all B's. And then that's really cool. And so again, thank you to everyone. That's pretty much wraps it up for us. If you do have any questions or comments, now would be a great time to mention them. So if you do just have any and you're just like, next, what are we doing next time? What do I do with my favorite list? How do I save it? Now would be just a good review moment before we end. Thank you. I'm glad that you guys were all able to enjoy it because coding should be fun. And so I'm hoping to make it that way. Thank you again, everyone. So no questions so far, though. Again, it's my pleasure to teach you all. It was really fun working through this challenge together and getting to see your favorite list too. So we don't really have any assignments for today. We can look into that for next week. If you do want to take this challenge to a next step, maybe figure out how to make an entire list of variables or something. So main thing next time will be math conditionals. So we're going to start focusing on math and conditionals too, which will be really fun. You're going to start developing loops and other really cool stuff, and we're going to get into more complex subjects. May I ask what your question is, Victor? I'm from the United States, so I'm going to school soon to Purdue University to study data science. So yeah, the main thing we'll be working on again is conditionals and math. So Codarina responded that you send your assignments to hello@codarina.org. So if you look up in the chat, there's a response to that.
Okay, so can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So you guys have been awesome. I mean, Sarah has been amazing. You guys have learned so much, and I was enjoying the class. I mean, I was listening in, and it was so cool. It was so interactive. If you have any assignments, I don't think Sarah gave you an assignment, but I think she said you could try taking what you learned to another level. But for future assignments and for any assignments you were given in any sessions today, you can put them on hello@codarina.net. Thank you so much, Sarah. We're really grateful. Codarina is grateful. All the students are grateful. You guys learn a lot. I mean, from functions to lists to variables, and then next week you have conditionals, which is going to be fun, like Sarah said. So please don't miss the next session. It's going to be amazing. Guys, can we wish Sarah all the best at university? I mean, she's starting university next week. So can we just wish her good luck in the comment section? She's going to be a freshman at Purdue University, which is a really amazing school. Thank you so much. Guys, don't forget to subscribe. If you have questions, put it on forum.codarina.net. Please do the assignments when you do get assignments, and just be participative, be interactive, stay in the classes, and do your thing. You guys are doing great. First day, and you guys are doing so great. So keep it up, guys. Thank you so much, Sarah. If
Thank
you have
you.
anything else to say, you can put it, you can say it now.
All right, just thank you again. It was a pleasure to be here, guys. Thank you so much. I, again, really enjoyed teaching you today and working with you guys. So yeah, just thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye, guys.
All right.
Bye, Sarah.
Bye.